welcome, namaste. Thanks for joining us today. So today we are going to make vegan pot pie. Oh yeah, pot pie in my belly. Woo! Yes, yes, yes. So thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to basically freestyle this recipe and it will become a recipe once it's recorded. But until now, it's a freestyle. So this is also the fun and the freedom that we can have in our kitchen. You don't have to be a super professional cook to learn to make and, you know, have fun with making food. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna have a focus of what we're trying to achieve, which is gonna be vegan pot pie. So we're gonna start with fine pastry flour, the finest pastry flour that ever was and ever is and ever will be. It's delicious. So we have fine pastry flour to begin this process with. And so that's the first step. Flour, oil, and water. Real simple, nothing hugely complicated or overly scientific about it. So I got a large bowl here. This large bowl is going to be what I blend and make a dough into. Make a dough in the bowl. All right. So I'm not 100% particular about quantity or like ingredient volume. I sort of freestyle, but there is one thing you got to watch out for just freestyling with, and that's baking soda. So baking powder and baking soda. And baking powder you can get a little bit more freestyle with, but baking soda, you put too much and your cake tastes bitter. Yuck. So I will pay attention to measurements on that. But what I normally do, I would say about 1.5 cups. I just sort of freestyle it. And then if I need more flour, add more flour as I add the water so that it balances out in the most beautiful ways possible. So get a spoon. Yeah, and my estimate is about 1 cup. Yeah, about 1.5 cups at most. Is enough to make a small or like pretty decent size vegan pot pie. So I'm putting in about 1 cup to 1.5 cups of flour currently right now. So I would say like a tablespoon of whatever oil you prefer. I'm using olive oil. And about a tablespoon. Again, I just kind of freestyle it. But tablespoon to 1.5 tablespoons. That's about all you need. And then of course the 1.5 cups of flour. And then just add some water. And let me just try to sort of measure out as we go here. So let me get like a measuring cup. So this I can use when I'm focusing on measurements and it'll tell me like how much. So I'm going to start with 1 cup of water to 1.5 cups of flour with a tablespoon of olive oil. And so you add the oil, you add the water, and you add the flour all into a bowl. And then when I do from this point, when I put about that much water in, I'll take a spoon and just kind of blend it and see what the consistency is. Or you can take those really cool type things. I just use a spoon because before I had these, I had a spoon. So when you work on little, you learn to be creative, you know. But then you realize that having tools is pretty awesome and you're open to it. Anyway, so as I'm putting this around, I realize that that's way too much water to not enough flour. So what I'm going to do now, and this is what I mean by freestyle, is I'm going to add more flour. So I've added 2 tablespoons, 3 tablespoons, and I'm going to do a 4th tablespoon of extra flour to that because it's all about the consistency. It's got to be enough that you can knead it together. So this is going much better. There's a lot of flour. It's the perfect amount. So what I'll do is I'll scrape off anything on the spoon. And yes, I have washed hands. And then start to knead. So just kind of like blend this stuff together with your hands. Really get your hands into it. It's a nice, relaxing, kinesthetic way to de-stress or just focus on how excited you are about eating this food. And so as I'm going, it's sticky. So if it stays sticky after you try kneading it together and it's all over your fingers like it is for me right now, this is where, again, you want to add more flours. So I'm going to add a tablespoon, and then another tablespoon, and then a third tablespoon. So I have enough flour to work with. And now it's really getting going. So I'm just sort of rolling that in the flour, squeezing my hands into it, kneading, or however you call that. And just sort of, you want to basically roll it into a ball. Okay, so now it's got a lot of flour. So you gotta look at that. If it gets too much flour, after you add flour, you can add a little bit of water. And in that little bit of water, you can go ahead and start to get a better consistency. But if you add too much water, don't worry about it. Go ahead and just add more flour. So, you know, if you mess up or whatever, and you're like, oh my gosh, and I put too much flour, I put too much water, it's okay. You can go back and forth and you'll just end up with more dough that you can cut in pieces. And sometimes I'll make like a calzone accidentally along with the pizza because I've made too much dough. And I just don't see a problem in that because make something else with it, you know? Like I'm saying, you don't really have to worry about perfect measurements. So this is doing really, really good. It just needs a little bit of liquid. So in this part, I'm actually feeling more drawn to using oil. So I'm gonna add just a drop of oil, which again would be maybe half a tablespoon. And then I'm just gonna use the oil to sort of blend it in as a liquid form. Because sometimes that works really well. So you wanna make sure you have enough oil. So there's also that. If it's like not sticky and you don't need more flour, that's cool. But if it's a little dry, you can also add oil. I just learned that right now. And it just perfectly took care of it. So it's forming into a dough ball now. So you can go around the edges where those flowers are, where the flour is, and just sort of start picking all that stuff up. And if it's too stuck, it's like, okay, that's fine. I'll just soak the bowl later. But eventually you want the bowl pretty clean. That's ideal. And then the dough in a nice ball. So I like to just kind of knead my fingers a little bit more into it and then take it back into the bowl, press my hands into it, make sure it's really blended well. You want all the flour and the water and the oil to be blended really well together. And then I get it all in a nice ball. And then I take parchment paper and I go ahead and I cover so I make it into a ball, like a snowball, make it a snowball. And so then what I do from this point is just go ahead and take some parchment paper and put it in the parchment paper. And so what you'll do from this point is you'll refrigerate it, which is highly recommended. I do it, I find it works really well, for at least 30 minutes. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll give it about an hour and I'll put it in the refrigerator. And so the main base of your meal is complete, which is amazing. So this is your main base, your dough. That is probably the hardest part. And so I'm gonna break here, and what we'll do is we'll just re-add the next section of the video when I get to doing that, because for the next hour, I'll go do things like laundry, do some house cleaning, take care of the plants. I have a whole hour while this is doing its thing, and I've got the main base for my dinner ready to go. So it's time efficient too if you're making from scratch. There's little unique things you can do, and that's one of them. I refrigerate this while I'm doing other chores. So it's going in the refrigerator now. And it'll be there for 1 hour, and then we'll be back soon to discuss the rest of how we're gonna make our vegan pot pie. So it's been an hour, so let's go ahead and pull that dough out, and then we're gonna roll it and roll it and roll it into a base of a pie. Woo! It's gonna be fun. All right, so go ahead and pull that out of the refrigerator. Got my ball, and we're gonna be using a little bit more flour and a roller. So you can use whatever works for you, but whatever kind of roller. I have this really awesome marble one. This was purchased on my birthday, which I'm really grateful for. This is marble, and I just find it amazing because it's super easy to clean and doesn't, like the wood one I had, basically the flour got really stuck and it's just very difficult to clean. So, see if you can see a little bit more of this workspace. Okay, so in the meantime, while we were letting our dough refrigerate, I started to come up with how I do my freestyle dinner. Like, started to, first in that hour, my husband came home from work, so I spent some time with him. A friend of mine is here power washing, so if you hear any noise in the background, it's the house being power washed, which is really awesome. And then talked to my mom. I was in the garden and outside doing some grounding and transmuting and centering and just working with family and loving them. And so that was fun. And so now through that time, and the back was just kind of like debating what to use. So I grabbed some ingredients out of the refrigerator and I got some ingredients from the garden. So this is the part that I want to talk about using, like, let food be thy medicine, is the saying. So I'm going to use a sauteing pan here. As you can see, this is a nice sized pan. It does well to fit a lot. And I'm going to put my heat on medium heat, like 4.5 is the one I used here, but it's like a medium heat. And some oil in the base of that. Pour it in the pan, okay? So we'll go back to our base for our pie. But what I do have is the ingredients for what I'm going to saute. And then I also have decided to add a second ingredient. So the vegan meat for today will be T.V.P. And I'm going to show you how we can spice up some T.V.P. and how you can make it be like an alternative for meat. So I'm going to get a second pan. It's going to be this size pan, a little bit smaller. Because I'm going to have more veggies and a little less of the meat stuff. So we're going to go ahead and put that one on medium heat. Again, a 4.5. And I'm going to add a cup of water. So I'm adding a cup of water into the pan. And then I'm going to get like some seasoning. So I have a vegetable broth base, so you can make a vegetable broth. I'm going to grab that. Just like I talked to you about freestyling, I just came out with this right now. I just thought, oh yeah, I have that. So a lot of times in alchemy, it's about using what you have to transmute it or transcend it into something different. So in taking whatever ingredients is here and making it into a sustainable, yummy dinner, you freestyle with it, and that's a part of the alchemy experience. And I'm not talking about turning things into gold, that kind of alchemy, but the inner alchemy that we experience. So I'm going to go ahead now and grab that vegetable broth thing. And this is a good flavor for like soups, or, you know, if you had like chicken pot pie, this would probably be a flavor you go with. So instead it's a vegan pot pie. So we're going to add that, which comes in like a cube of different herbs and stuff. And I'm going to add that into the water. So let me just show you what I'm using. This is what I'm using. Okay. A cube of that into the water. And just kind of getting a base going. I'm also going to add amino acids. Scratch that, not amino acids. I was just thinking, what? Liquid aminos from Bragg's. It's an all-purpose seasoning. Anyway, so adding a little bit in that mix right here with the vegetable seasoning. All right, and that also adds a good salt, so you really don't need to add any more salt. And I think with that is pretty good. So what I had now is I went, and this is part of freestyling, to make the filling for the vegan pot pie. I wanted to get a bunch of vegetables, and I literally am using the last vegetables I have, which will be squash, carrots, tomatoes, and dandelion leaves from the dandelions outside growing. So another way to add medicine be thy food, I add a lot of different things like that into the mix, so I kind of feel what my body needs or what we have and just work with that. And that's a part of doing alchemy, the inner alchemy. So that's pretty amazing. We're also going to be using garlic as a medicinal today. I don't recommend using this all the time. Apparently it's not that great, but just confession, I absolutely love the flavor of it. Just truth. But we don't use a whole lot of, we really don't use onion at all or much garlic at all, but we do use it every once in a while, and it's good for like heart health and other different things that you can research and find out about. Garlic is pretty cool. So I'm going to add that in there because I have it. It's good flavoring. So with the oil going here on this other pan at medium heat, we want to cut up some garlic and put it in to saute, which is really cool. I didn't really think this part through, so the video would probably get like extremely long. So basically, let me just get to the point of these vegetables that I showed you and this garlic. I'm going to chop up and put into this pan at medium heat. First chopping the garlic. I'm also going to add cumin seeds and let that go for 2 minutes or something, and then add the vegetables that I've chopped into the pan, and then turn down the heat to like low, okay, and let it slowly simmer the flavors. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now, break on this video so it's not like a 45-minute video, and do that. And while this is getting ready to get all boiled up, and then I'll meet you back here when those things are going. If you'd like to leave a comment or anything you'd like to see me cook from scratch, I'd be happy to hear it. And thank you again for coming by. Namaste.